I am Simeon Scott, and this is Analytical Fanboys Discuss Spawn Year. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to the Analytical Fanboys podcast. I am Simeon Scott, and I am joined, as always, by the intrinsic Chris Gaston. How are you doing, sir?
Deep, dark, depressing, and another D word.
Alright. I can't believe we're fucking talking about Spawn and you didn't think to say demonic.
Because I'm a good... I can't even finish that sentence.
Yeah, today on the show we are going to be talking about Spawn Year, which is a YouTube series created by the channel Geekvolution, and it is essentially their first story-focused thing. They've done little spurts of story stuff here and there before, just kind of accidentally building up their own mythology, and I'll get into that later. But this was them going, we have an idea for a project. Let's do something really cool and special here. Let's do a video every day for a year where we review something Spawn related, because that's the main guy on our channels, one of his favorite things. And then it got really out of control and took almost 2.5 years to make. And now we're going to talk about it. But Chris, this was your first time viewing it, so why don't you tell me a little bit of what you thought about Spawn Year? Because I've been a big fan of these guys for years. Obviously, my opinion is going to be a little bit colored, but I want to know what you thought.
Well, of course your opinion's going to be colored. They fucking mentioned you.
Yeah, I always forget about that when watching, because this was my third time watching the show all the way through, and it always catches me off guard. I'm like, oh, hey, that's me.
Sure. I tried to start watching the series as they produced it, which was the daily videos. I binged it. I got to like episode 70 or so, and then I went, fuck this shit. And watched the collective movie storyline version of it, which it's still...
It's very obviously a truncated version.
Which, there's something interesting that you could pick out from these two things, but it's kind of neat. It's very interesting to see this take on Spawn, because Spawn is in the background, and realizing, oh, this is why Spawn isn't talked about anymore, is just fascinating.
Yeah. And it was a very interesting, eye-opening thing for me, because I knew literally nothing about Spawn going into this, except it was the premier 90s image book, and a lot of 90s kids are nostalgic for it.
Yeah, like, if I want to be reading an early image book, I just pick up Savage Dragon, because that's actually interesting. Because I have the first issue of Savage Dragon.
Oh, that's cool. That's a nice...
And floppy.
Kit. Yeah. But I actually didn't know Savage Dragon was a thing until Spawn Year, because the thing is, like, there's a bunch of people who have been on Geekvolution, and at the time, they all were like, oh, there's no way Cap's going to be able to pull this off, and they all did their own parody, like, pilots for things, and one of the ones that kept getting tossed around by a guy called Duke of Loops was he wanted somebody to make Savage Dragon Solstice.
No, the first Savage Dragons book's interesting. I'd say for the majority of the Spawn storyline, though.
Yeah. and that's a big part of, like, why this is hard, because that's really the main thing I think after this viewing I want to talk about with Spawn Year is, like, Spawn Year is nearly impossible to binge because we tried to do it for this show. You got 70 episodes in, I got 50 episodes in. Um,
Oof.
it's just,
Here's the thing. I want to say this. I will finish binging it just at a better pace.
yeah, because we were like, okay, we have 2 weeks until we need to record the episode. Go. And it doesn't really work for that. It's something that the way it's made is very much meant to be like it's advertised. You watch it once a day. This is like a 5 to 8 minute video that you sit down and you watch while you're having your lunch.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is. There's a lot more to it than that, but at its core, that's how I think this series is meant to be viewed. And if you don't do it that way, you try to go through a whole lot at once, you kind of end up feeling like the main character. You're going through a really monotonous version of hell.
And it's partially, I think, because of what he is reviewing is so monotonous that they can't spice it up.
Yeah.
Like they're like we can't talk about this web series without actually talking about the Spawn comic, because he's at like 50 issues and going like, and now something happens, and it's like, shit, people read this?
Yeah.
How? How was this so popular?
It's like I remember when he got in episode 12 where he's like, it's been a whole year in publication time, and I've still got a huge amount of way to go. But still, we're 12 issues into this comic and Spawn's fucking origin isn't over yet. What the hell?
Yeah, like Spawn seems like the kind of thing that once it's over, someone just needs to do a complete reboot and truncated version of it, and it might be more interesting.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, as we're recording this podcast, Spawn is coming up on its 300th issue.
Oh, and God.
Literally, I looked at that and I was like, oh, cool, the book's gonna be good for 2 issues. And the thing is, all my knowledge of Spawn comes from Spawn Year, so I have no idea if anything has changed in the book in between where Cap leaves off at the end of this and where we are in the comic now. All I know is McFarlane is still writing.
I mean, if it keeps him engaged, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't hurt to have like a little dumb pet project.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things, it's just like that monotonous leeches into the show itself, which I think is interesting, because watching the regular web series, the week-to-week version, the day-to-day, week-to-week, that version of it, it really drives home how this comic feels.
Mm-hmm.
It's atmospheric,
but it's slow, and you have the same thing to say for like 5 issues straight.
Yeah, like, and that's what the show feels like, and he makes comment of that, and it's like, I am now reviewing this issue. The same thing happens again. He's in the alley. There's a cybernetic gorilla. Does nothing.
Mm-hmm. And if anything changes, the way it changes is it just gets more frustrating. And the only time you really get a reprieve from that is when he either does a mini or he does a Spawn thing in other media. And that's why the reviews in the movie version is 2 comic reviews, a video game review, a review of the Spawn movie, and I think that's it, but there was also...
Board game.
Oh yeah, the board game is in the movie. And there was also a thing where there was a day where he reviewed all comics that came with Spawn action figures. There was a day where or there was a string of days where he reviewed the 2 seasons of the Spawn animated series episode by episode. Like, he touches on everything. And another thing that's in the movie, I just remembered, is a documentary that was done about Todd McFarlane in the mid-2000s, I want to say.
I think it was like 2003.
And like he tries to reach out and grab as much variety as he possibly can while still covering a whole fucking lot of the main Spawn book.
And here's the thing: the general web series, I think, is a review of the Spawn comic, but the movie is much more a dissection of the multimedia experience of Spawn, kind of showing how just inundated this time period was with the character of Spawn.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And it's also a really good character piece, too, I think. We'll get into that a little more in a minute, but I think this does have a really solid story to it.
Yeah. But I'm just talking like analytical, like that's a very distinct flavor. Like the web series is very much, here's Spawn, here's everything that can possibly be wrong with the story being explained, and here's Spawn again. Oh, and here's a little diversion. But the movie really makes it feel much more like, no, this is a very distinct thing. Why was Spawn big? How inundated were we with multimedia properties? And ending that little section with the Todd McFarlane documentary really kind of shows his mindset and paints a frame for the entire multimedia experience that he's trying to build up a thing in order to support others. He's becoming exactly what he hated, so he can stop others having to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. He goes into the empire business so others can run their little indie promotions.
Yeah. He becomes WWE so hunters can make NXT.
Yes, that's it exactly. It all goes back to wrestling with us.
I mean, what else would you expect at this point?
Exactly. Might as well just fucking rebrand the channel to MMWP. I mean, Wrestle Talk's about to die thanks to Article 13, so, we could move in on that. I'm just kidding. If you're listening, I love you, Wrestle Talk guys.
You support Wrestle Talk and Indeed. Screen Stalker. They're watching.
Yes.
They're just a bunch of fucking lads with their beer 52 that we can't get in America.
Yeah.
Because it's only for UK watchers.
So, when we talked about Database Rangers Power Reviews, you were really into the production of that show. How did you feel about all the production that went into Spawn Year?
They took a lot of effort with the amount of budget they had, and sometimes they reached for the stars and got halfway to the moon. But not in a bad way, but more in a, oh, that's quaint.
Yeah.
Like, the most backhanded way of describing it, but it's very much like, and I think it's epilogue,
a really good looking fan film. At the end of the day, that's what this is.
And here's the biggest thing: the end epilogue basically gives them the best out ever for the entire series. Is, oh no, the reason why it looked crappy was because it was done by a low budget film production crew after the fact. And it's like,
yeah, that's also why it took forever to come out.
Yeah, like that is like a beautiful little, oh cool, you had your cake and ate it too, and I'm not pissed at it. Beautiful. But like there were some episodes where they were filming day for night or doing something like that, and there was a very weird gray overlay to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And like they got better. It got to the point where they figured out, okay, this is how we do this shit, and it looks better. Like the 60s, 70s episodes in the graveyard where they figured out, oh, wait a second, we can just turn off all lights and just have a single point of view light and it looks good. It's like, fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they did an okay job making the alley.
Here's the crazy thing. All of the stuff that comes later, all of that production value and the outs they came up with, that was all thought of along the way. The original concept for the series, I found out through talking to Cap a couple times, because I wouldn't call him like a close friend, but he's a guy who I have spoken with on more than one occasion.
An acquaintance.
Yes, that is exactly the correct term. He
It's almost as if there is one.
the original concept was just going to be Cap in the graveyard all fucking year round, because obviously they were trying to keep it very small scale, very easy to produce an episode a day, and then their imaginations just ran away with them, and it ended up taking a long ass time to complete.
But here's the thing: they still kept the sets relatively sane. They didn't
Mhm.
go, "Oh, we're doing this now," and it's like, no, it's relatively calm. It's relatively tame.
Like
Um,
the part of the story where he becomes Spawn, that entirely happened just because one of their fans contacted them and said, "Hey, I'm a cosplay guy, and I'm working on a Spawn suit because I've been enjoying Spawn Year so much. You guys want me to make you one?" And they were just like, "Of yes, please."
yeah, I mean, it looked dope.
Mhm.
It looked pretty
And
solid. I would have, and this is just a nitpicky thing because I love how big the collars on Spawn is because it's so dumb. It would have been cool to see it like stick up, but like,
yeah, and that guy also ended up playing stocky Frank Miller Batman and the police officer in the end because he's a police officer in real life.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the whole bit in the comic shop, besides the breaking of the window, they could have done that better.
Yeah.
Because
I would have just had a shot of Cap running at the window and then jump cut to him falling into the store.
or you could just have a camera pointing into the store and you just throw glass through the camera.
Yeah.
Like do a sound effect. There's ways you can hide it.
Mhm. But that's
Um,
probably the only effect I would call outright bad in the entire series.
oh yeah, no, and it's a lot of old school special effects like the fading and masking whenever they like went from whenever he was thinking of the thing and he got like a bottle of Mountain Dew.
Mhm. Or when
Like
Doomsvince shows up as like a hologram projection thing, a ghoulish
yeah,
ghoul.
but like I don't want to say it is simple, but like that's all you need. That's all I need.
Yeah. And since I brought him up now, what did you think of Doomsvince and the whole like plot and meat of this story, essentially?
It's I hate I goddamn it feels feels like such a back ass compliment. It feels like an internet web series story, which is what it is, which is good. But the best way to put that into frame is I'm like when you tell a comic book story, you tell a comic book story. When you make a movie, you make a movie. When you make a web series, you make a web series.
Yeah.
Which that's the thing. It's a web series story. It's fun, it's goofy, it's low budget because a couple of friends wanted to make something fun, unique, and creative. And that's the kind of story you need to get with this kind of format. It's fun, it's goofy. They talk about Coke and Pepsi as if they're heaven and hell. They use their
Yeah.
child in it because they wanted to involve them in something creative and give them a fun memory of working with their dad later in life.
Hmm. And that kid's been on the channel. Jason, I should say his name because I've met their child. Jason has been on the channel a whole bunch of times now. It's one of those weird things where I've sort of pseudo watched this kid grow up. He's like, I want to say he's 6 now, and he was like a toddler at the time they were making this.
Yeah, but like it very distinctly feels of that nature, which is not a bad thing. It's just very much
It is what it is.
yeah, it's amateur writing, it's amateur acting, it's and I don't mean amateur as in oh it's amateur no, it's they're non-professional. They didn't go to school. They aren't getting paid for this.
Actually, Cap is an English major.
They didn't go to acting school.
Okay, I wasn't sure what exactly you meant by that, and I was just like, he could end up listening to this, so I want to bring that up real quick.
Remember, I'm a guy who went to technical theater school. So I'm thinking of art school as that they
Yeah,
didn't go they didn't take formal acting lessons.
Yes.
They're
And
like
I do agree.
Captain Logan and Captain Logan and Doomsvents, they were great because they knew their character. They were playing a slightly caricature, like over the top, which is what you want for this fun, goofy, campy, comic booky kind of thing. And the one to two other lines, it was like, oh, that's not a bad acting performance, and not even a bad read. It's just like, yeah, no, you haven't acted for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, the best way I can put it. Like,
and I don't think there's any like outright bad performances in this. It's just like Cap and Vince are pretty solid. Everyone else is just okay.
and it's just like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That is fine. Like, that's like, I don't mean fine as in, oh, it's fine. It feels such, it feels like such a backhanded compliment or like an insult to what they did, because they fucking made 365 some odd videos, all varying in length and being very intense, analytical, thought out things. And that takes a lot of effort.
Look like they take a good bit of production work to put together.
Oh yeah. And like, watching it, I could see where, not cut corners, but where they save time and were economical. Mm-hmm. Like, they probably recorded, what, 10, 20 Doomsvents, this is Spawn Year, and this is Day Blank, in just a row.
I'm sure, I would not be surprised if they did all of those in like 2 sittings.
And like, he probably read 10 comics at a time, wrote it all down in the book, filmed himself for like 2 hours writing different things with the different comics. That's why he never talks on camera, because he can always, time-wise, it's easier to record the voice and film the thing separate.
Uh-huh.
Like, and the scrolling over the book probably saved him a bunch of time, because that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I can see where they took the effort to save time and be economical. But still, there's only so economical you can be. An hour is still an hour.
Yeah, and you also have to keep in mind they were producing other videos at the same time as this.
Exactly. Like, it's there's a lot of effort put in to a very, it's the kind of project that they said that it feels like they just wanted to make it for themselves, to prove it to themselves, to just have fun with it, to just go like, you know what, I just want to do this. Damned who watches it, damned who don't. And it has a little audience.
Do you want to know how the idea for the show came about?
How?
So, Cap is also a very big fan of the Tick, and he actually has a complete Tick collection. Like, he owns every bit of Tick merchandise you can get your hands on, as well as a few custom made things. Or at least he did at the time when he did Tick Month, which was a month where just all the videos on the channel were about different Tick things. And it wasn't like this, it was just, hi, I'm Captain Logan, here's a Tick thing I have, I'm going to talk about it for 5 minutes. And then shortly after that, him and Dan Torrey were getting ready to record an episode of a show they do called The Comic Vault, which is basically a podcast talking about specific comic book arcs. And during their pre-show ramble, much like ours, they were talking about Tick Month, and Spawn came into the conversation somehow, and Dan just joked, Cap, you should do Spawn Year next time. That would be hilarious. And he's like, yeah, that'd be really dumb and funny. And then like he started thinking about it, and a week later he was like, damn, we've got to actually make this happen.
Oh, man. Oh, dumb jokes turning into big things like Jeff Ameramy.
Yeah. It was yet to debut, so thank you for spoiling that.
Who the fuck is gonna know what Jeff Ameramy is? True.
Very true.
They don't even know what the fuck I'm saying, bruh.
Indeed.
Like,
I'm just busting your balls. But no, this is like, to to me, like, even though I like Power Reviews and another show a little more than this is like the consummate sort of internet show of the that guy with the glasses era and style. Like, even though Cap has said many times he's not particularly influenced by those people, he doesn't actually watch a lot of internet content himself. This feels very much like a that guy with the glasses thing, and it feels like, okay, we've perfected that formula. We've done the best version of that kind of story we can do. It's time for the medium to move on. That's what this show was to me at the time. And going back and looking at it, it's just kind of a neat time capsule and remembering what that sort of stuff was like. Like, I watch this and I think about stuff like Linkara and other channels of that ilk, and it's a really neat piece that is sort of like one thing that has a set beginning, middle, and end, and can let you understand what all that is like.
Yeah. And like, yeah. Yeah. Yep. And now internet video and reviewy kind of things are like just moved in a completely different direction for like the main like we were talking before we started recording about Scott the Woz. Like he's probably like the best example of like that modern idea. He's analytical about a thing and he has a story, but like they're individualized stories in the episode.
Yeah,
and it's just more of a setup for jokes.
It's kind of like Spawn Year is an action adventure show, and there were a lot of action adventure shows 5 years ago. But now the medium has moved on to stuff like Scott the Woz, which is basically just Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Looney Tunes with heart and a brain and like shit.
Like Scott the Woz does that, Relax does it.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock critic Crash Thompson does it. Like
Best Guy Ever,
Jobby the Hong.
Yeah.
Like there are still people doing these review analytical bullshit things with a story attached, but it's it's a much different flavor. It's like going from Stan Lee to Grant Morrison.
Indeed.
That guy with the glasses, ABGN, these guys, they're Stan Lee. They have their place, and you can still go back and enjoy it. But now we're in Grant Morrison territory, and we're dealing with bullshit, and it's like, fuck, dude.
Mm-hmm. We're in a more interesting and dynamic era now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not to discount this kind of stuff. It's just we've moved on.
We've I don't want to say mature. Mature is the wrong word. We haven't grown up. It's more the tastes have just changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Taste in this kind of stuff has changed, and now we're more interested in, okay, cool, you can tell a story and do a thing. All right, what are you going to do with the story? And then you have Jobby the Hong making an existential horror flick while reviewing Toy of Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
You have Scott the Woz turning into a verbal Looney Tune going...
That is a parody of Average White Guys.
Yeah, and you have Relax, who has a Cthulhu cat, a talking Ganondorf amiibo, and a virus from Doki Doki Literature Club in his computer. All the while, there's like weird bullshit, and it's goofy. It's goofy on purpose.
You have like some other examples are like Few, who is basically a PBS show about toys that acknowledges how dumb and nerdy it is in a very passionate, loving way.
And then you have the Rock Critic, one of my favorite YouTubers, who's basically a guy who reviews rock albums, who's a Super Saiyan.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
and then to talk about ourselves, you're basically doing analysis videos as a 90s children's cartoon.
I am very Max Headroom.
Yeah. You're kind of in that sort of weird, wacky space, and I'm basically doing a wrestling storyline for YouTube.
Yeah. Like it things that we have taken the fertilizer that they laid out and we have grown very dumb weird plants.
Indeed.
like they took this whole idea like, oh, let's do a web series but with a very distinct aesthetic. Like AVGN's very distinct aesthetic. Oh, we're in a basement and it's weird and dingy. These guys' aesthetic is, oh, we're building lo-fi sets, but they get the point across really well, and it's kind of gothic, and we're trying to build the atmosphere of the comics. And now we have like your aesthetic, which is very much very much in-house backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
And then you have my aesthetic, which is, oh, we're in the 90s, retro. You're watching TV, but it's on YouTube.
Indeed.
Like the aesthetic has gone weird, and you've grown. Like Scott the Wise has his blue border, weird thing. This is like people have taken the little elements that these guys built up and went, all right, cool, I'm going to take this ball and run. But they needed to set up this play so and everybody else could take the ball and run.
If we can see for miles, it is because we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. This took effort to make, and it's a needed effort.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we can both agree Spawn Year is pretty solid, and it's a neat sort of time capsule piece at this point, and it's worth checking out.
Hell yeah.
Just don't try to watch a whole ton of it at once. But you know what you can watch a whole ton of, or rather listen to a whole ton of, are some fucked up fruit facts with Chris.
Caffeine serves the function of a pesticide in coffee beans.
Huh. Really? That's interesting.
Yep. We are the freaks of this planet. Because anything that is poison for everything else, we go, this tastes good.
Did you see that fucking meme I posted last night?
Of the fucking Pulp Fiction meme that's been going around?
Yes.
This is fucking cuisine.
I'm gonna pull it up right now. Peppers produces a chemical that triggers pain response when eaten to deter animals from eating it. Humans, this is some serious gourmet shit.
Yeah, fuck, man. This chemical makes insects die whenever they ingest it. Fuck yeah, it makes me awake.
Alright, well, are you ready to find out what we're going to be talking about next week on Analytical Fanboys, Chris?
Do we have to?
We kind of do.
Okay, cool.
Mean, there might be a Who'Be I'm reviewing or an MMWP next week, depending on how far out I have this scheduled. I actually forgot, but...
well, when we're recording this, MMWP is premiering next week.
Yeah. Fucking... I Fight Dragons the Near Future, suggested by you.
Fuck yeah! This is one of my favorite bands. Fuck yeah!
I have heard of I Fight Dragons, mainly for you, but also some other sources. I've not listened to a lick of their music, so this should be interesting.
It's chiptune pop punk.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Take a Game Boy, take Green Day, well, no, not Green Day, take a Game Boy, take Blink-182, put them together, and you have Fight Dragons.
Alright. Well, that should be... Oh, go ahead.
And the Near Future is one half concept album. So the first half of the album tells a story, and the second half of the album is just a couple other extra songs.
Cool. Well, so, that should be interesting and fun, but until then, Chris, why don't you tell everybody who you are and where they can find the stuff you do?
Alright, you can find me on YouTube at Boingo Writer. You can find me on Twitter at Boingo_Writer. You can find me on Instagram at Boingo_Writer. You can find me on my Discord server. The link to that is in the description. You can find me on Modular Media, where I am the fucking host of MMWP and the co-host of this bullshit. And fuck.
Cool. I'm Simeon Scott. I make tons and tons of different YouTube stuff. You can find all of that stuff by going to thatsimeonscott.com. It will take you to a playlist of every video I have ever made or contributed to in some way. But mainly, I make the Vacuuminator Saga, an ongoing story-focused series of videos about a guy trying to become a cool, popular, successful YouTube boy and constantly getting fucked with in multiple ways. So you can find that by going to youtube.com/thevacuuminator. You can follow me on the social medias. I am on Twitter at @ThatSimeonScott, and I am on Instagram at @ThatSimeonScott, but with underscores. But that is not all. This podcast is part of the Modular Media Network, as well as everything else we do. You can check us out by following us on Twitter at The Modular Media. You can follow our subreddit, r/Modular Media, and you can subscribe to this channel to get all of the episodes of our podcasts as they come out. You can also download MP3s of the podcast to listen on the go if you don't have YouTube Premium. In the video description, there is a link to a Google Drive folder. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I am Simeon Scott.
I want to congratulate you on the record for hitting 1,000 subscribers.
Oh, thank you, sir. It was just on the Vacuuminator channel, but still, that's a hill I have been trying to climb for 7 years! So, it feels pretty good to get over. We will see you next time when we will be talking about The Near Future by I Fight Dragons.
You mean in the near future? We're going to be talking about in the near future?
Yeah. But until then, this has been Analytical Fanboys Discuss Spawn.